Hey everybody, Jimmy here with the Triple C Collective, back with episode 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. Really excited to dive into it today. I just want to say at the start, I really liked episode 1. I know a lot of people didn't, but I thought episode 1 was really cool. For episode 2, before we dive in, really loved this episode as well. I thought it really built upon the first episode very well, like gave us a really cool story. I thought it was really great. I've really enjoyed I've really enjoyed these first 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. They've been really great. Now, to dive into episode 2, titled The Tribes of Tatooine. It opens with Fennec returning with the prisoner, the one that she left alive at the end of episode 1 on that rooftop. She is returning with him to present him before Boba for questioning. And during the questioning, the droid, voiced by Matthew Berry, keeps saying that he's an assassin. He's a member of the Night's Wind. He won't talk. He won't tell you anything. Fennec then, Ming Na Wen then decides to drop the Nightwind assassin into the Rancor pit and opens up the Rancor cage. And the guy says that the mayor sent him. And it's really funny because, as we all know, the Rancor that Jabba had was killed in Return of the Jedi. So it was really funny. It's a really great little scene there of you see the Nightwind assassin's eyes get really big and stuff as the gate starts coming, and then there's just this little mouse little rat thing just kind of me going right on by. It's really great, really awesome. The During the exchange though of Boba and the assassin, of Boba trying to question who sent you, all of this kind of stuff, the assassin speaks Huttonese and curses Boba, and Boba calls that out, "You curse me," and stuff. Oh, it's really great. Tamora Morrison is so good. He's so great as Boba Fett. We all originally saw him as Jango, but he's so good as Boba Fett here in The Mandalorian and in the first 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett. The Nightwind assassin then eventually, as I said, says that the mayor sent him. So they, and when I say they, Boba Fett and Fennec go walking into the streets again, going to see the mayor. They are gatekept a little bit by someone just asking them if they have an appointment, and and it's really great. He's like, "Oh, okay, so you're Boba Fett. Oh, I don't see you on here. Do you have an appointment? Who are you here to see?" "I'm here to see the mayor." And then we see the mayor's delegate that we saw in episode 1 come out and gives his apologies and he's sorry, and then Boba Fett just walks right past him, hits the button, goes into the mayor's chamber, and then basically drags in the assassin and accuses the mayor of sending the assassin after him. One of the mayor's people just kills the assassin on sight, saying that, "I will give you, the reward for killing or bringing a Nightwind assassin," because they are not allowed to operate outside of Hutt space, and this is not Hutt space anymore. So the mayor then, the conversation that Boba Fett has with the mayor is really great. Boba Fett gets to learn a little bit more about what's happening now and why that those assassins were kind of sent. The mayor doesn't straight out tell him, but the mayor points Boba Fett and Fennec in the right direction of where to look to next. And the Mayer says that he pays for the bounty, but the tribute is the advice of, you're right. Why would I send an assassin after Boba's accusing him? He's like, why would you send an assassin after me? You're supposed to, serve me and work for me. And the mayor's like, you're right. I do work for you and serve you. So why would I send an assassin after you? But as tribute, I will give you this advice. Go check Madame Garza. See what's going on there. And ask yourself, if anything looks off. So Boba Fett, Fennec, they leave and head to Madame Garza's place again. And as soon as Boba Fett and Fennec walk in, as Boba Fett even says, you're sweating. What's going on here? I thought we had an understanding, and Madame Garza then says, oh, you don't know, do you? The twins are laying claim to their cousin's throne, not you. And Boba's like, what? I haven't heard anything like this. But as soon as Madame Garza says that, and Boba Fett has that wait, what kind of looking, kind of confused response, we hear the entire time that Boba Fett has walked into the city to see the mayor and then to see Madame Garza, there's been this boom, 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 boom kind of music playing in the background. And at first you thought it was just the score, but what happens here is that it goes from the score to being the announcing music of the Twin Hut litter, because as everyone keeps saying that they kept expecting Boba Fett to show up with a litter, and no one saw his litter, so no one ever understood how to react to him, or would react late to him being there, being let me shine your helmet and all that kind of stuff that we saw in that first episode. So this was all really really cool, because then we get Boba Fett going outside and we get two more Jabba the Hutt looking creatures, his cousins, that are just referred to as the twins, and they're saying that they lay claim to this land. They say that they have a deed from, as Boba Fett kind of mentions, Hutta, so you could only imagine that they were over at Hutta, dealing with whatever, but that paper or that tablet that they show Boba Fett came from there, saying that they take the claim of it. But how Boba Fett understands, or how Boba Fett is thinking that this territory and stuff works, is if you kill the leader, the person who owns it, it's yours now. Because Jabba died, Bim Fortuna took over, and then Boba Fett killed Fortuna, as we saw. And it was great. It was so good. I loved seeing this. The exchange between the twins and the Hutt twins and Boba Fett is really great. The male Hutt twin is like, oh, my sister thinks that we should kill you. I think the bloodshed is bad for business. And Boba's like, yeah, if you think you're going to take over your late cousin's territory from me, your sister's right. You better kill me, because I'm not giving this up in any way, shape, or form, anytime soon. It's all so good. And this is all really, really soon into the episode. It's so great. The other thing that the Hutt twins bring with them is the black furred Wookiee. That is black chrysanthemum, and if you read any of the current running Marvel Star Wars comics, I believe Black Chrysanthemum is his name. He's the black furred Wookiee that has like the gladiator kind of looking stuff. He's a huge looking thing. Great. Awesome. It like so intimidating. Doesn't say anything but says so much with like just the look and stuff of it. Ah, man, it was so great. Um, it was so great to see that. But this character of Black Chrysanthemum comes from the like currently running Marvel comics of Star Wars, and came, I think, originally appeared in like the Darth Vader comic and then showed up in the Star Wars proper comic of it, but really kind of played, far as I know, or at least as one of the co-founders, Colin, after this episode like dropped on Wednesday, when I was talking to him about it on Thursday, he was like, "Dude, you gotta like." I can't film with you this weekend. I can't jump on the episode. My schedule just doesn't allow it. But you got to make sure you talk about these things. And so, like, I'm hitting it here. The Black Chrysanthemum comes from the like currently running Marvel comics, as I said, specifically from like the Darth Vader one. Shows up in the Darth Vader story. Shows up in just the Star Wars running one, but plays, I believe, a bigger part in the Dr. Aphra storyline, which I've like even seen like online and stuff from like others, that seeing Black Chrysanthemum here basically opens up the door for Dr. Aphra to show up. So that'll be cool, because like it's one of the things that's very interesting about this and like the Mandalorian. They're taking like things we've seen before, like the Mandalorian. We've seen, if you're only familiar with the movies, you've at least seen you've seen Boba Fett in Empire and in Return of the Jedi, and so like you had an idea of at least the look of the Mandalorian, but then we kind of got an idea of what the Mandalorian is in the live action sense, in the two wonderful seasons that we got from that. And then here we're learning all about like Boba Fett and what he's been doing like previous in like the flashbacks of it. I just love that they're pulling in everything from all sections of Star Wars and doing this, because like really in the end, previous to seeing Boba Fett in the first episode escape the Sarlacc pit, that was truly just like a Legends expanded universe stuff. Now with them bringing it into the live action like TV series and stuff, it remakes this stuff canon, which is really cool. It's also really cool that they allowed other like writers like Kieran Gillen to write like Black Chrysanthemum, and like now it's being pulled into like the Book of Boba Fett and stuff. Like it's really great on how they are really playing in a fun play box here, sandbox, toy box, whatever, of Star Wars, and they're just pulling in a little bit of everything, sprinkling it in for wherever. So like whether you were strictly just like a movie fan, the movie and like TV series like the animated Clone Wars and Rebels, or whatever made you love Star Wars and whatever has kept you around for Star Wars, like it's really great, cool, seeing all these neat little things kind of be pulled in and put together and expanded upon and stuff, and like and grown out, and like it's so cool. But one thing that I will say is that the brother says it's bad for business, that bloodshed is bad for business in the streets here, and that they will deal with this later. And so then the Hutt twins leave, and Fennec goes to Boba and says, if you want to kill them, you'll have to get permission. Permission from who? Well, like, permission from Hutta, I can only assume, but like, why would that matter? especially if you're like defending your claim to that land and everything. I don't know. I have no idea. And it'll also be interesting to see how all this works out because it'll be interesting to just see how all this works out. But the thing that really makes it weird for me here is that what permission? Who does Boba and Fennec need to get permission from to kill a Hutt? Because at this point, this is after Jedi. We can actually, we don't really. I mean, we assume that this is after Return of the Jedi and after the events of the Mandalorian. So we assume that the Empire has been destroyed. So it's not like Palpatine's really around and being like, no, I need the Hutts over there in Tatooine, pulling my strings or whatever for it. Is it another hint possibly to General Thrawn? Maybe General Thrawn has a little bit more of a grasp over here in Tatooine than thought. And like, if you are planning on taking out someone big, like even somebody from the Hutt family, then you need to go through General Thrawn, maybe? I don't know. I'm really excited to find out, though, because I really thought for a while that the mayor was going to be like the major villain of the show, and I just don't think that that's the case. Maybe, but it'll be. I want to know who they need to get permission from to be able to kill the twin Hutts. I'm very like intrigued by that. If there's one thing that this episode left me with a question is like, who does Boba Fett need to get permission from? Because now I'm interested in who would still have like more power than Boba. I mean, I guess in theory a lot of people could have more power than Boba Fett at this point, but like having to get permission to kill somebody, I find that to be very odd for Boba Fett and anything that he's been trying to do, to have something like that over him. So I don't know. But then they go back to the Fennec and Boba go back to the palace, and Boba goes back into his pod, and then we go to a flashback, and this is where we stay for basically the whole rest of the episode. Is that after this like opening here and like the meet and greet with the Hutt twins and everything like that, we then just kind of live with Boba Fett in the flashback. Flashback is really great. Just as I had like pointed out in the first episode, when they do this like grainy looking green kind of filter edit showing like the time shift going backwards into this flashback here into this dream that he's having, again something that was laid out to us, that he has dreams from the back to pod now, that the dreams are back, which I can only assume that is because his brain's healing. He might have, or whatever, his body's healing, so he's, I mean, I guess in theory he could be sleeping better. But like I always just kind of assumed that like parts of him didn't work right, and like that's what that pod is supposed to do. It's supposed to help heal. So I don't know if it gets that in depth either for him, but we'll see. He gets his dream. He has dreams again. And in this one, it opens up with with that Robert Rodriguez again style, like from Planet Terror. If anyone watching this has ever watched that, there's definitely throughout the entire movie there's that like grainy look to it, but that was part of like what they were trying to go for. But there's certain like awesome, really like colorful dissolves and things that he uses that is very similar to like showing going into this, from let's call it the present, from the back to pod to like the past of like when he was with the Tuscans. And so we get Boba training with the Tuscan staff, which is great. It's just awesome. I will watch people fight and like train with stuff inside the Star Wars universe like all day. I love Luke's little like blindfold training on the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars, A New Hope. I love it. I love that. It's great. I love seeing this here. It's not. It's definitely not that, but it is in a lot of ways. I actually also really like those Tuscan staffs. I think those things are really cool looking, and seeing Boba with it in Mandalorian season 2 was like pretty like, oh my god, was wild, and so yeah, it was all really cool. And then we get a train attack, and a bunch of Tuscans are killed. Bantha is killed, and it just seems to be some train that it just happens to be going right by like where they live. Just going down like a highway basically. And it's like a big old speeder kind of looking train like for the Star Wars universe and all of that. But it like that train actively shoots at the Tuscan Raiders, and the Tuscans like really had no bother with the who do I want to say? They had no bother with the train. Like they weren't looking to like really ever like far as like what we get from this is that they had no interest in the train. The train was always just very aggressive in attacking them, and then therefore they would shoot back. And due to like just due to the death that like Boba sees, he gets like pretty mad at this stuff, and he is going to he brings back the bodies after the attack from the train. Boba's carrying back the bodies along with like the other like remaining alive like Tuscans, bringing back their dead to be burned on a pyre. While they're looking out and setting up this pile of their dead to be burned, Boba sees the raiders that we saw in the first episode that like drew in like two L's, like one regular L and a backwards L, on a building that had like some speeder bikes and stuff that we were used to seeing in Return of the Jedi, that like the Force troopers were on. And Boba Fett decides that he's going to take a staff, take a rifle. He talks to the leader of the Tuscans, and he is going to go and figure out a way to stop the train, and he will be back in the morning. I love it some more because they do more of the sign language with the Tuscan Raiders, and like, again, instead of just making the Tuscans be some like weirdo savages, like you make them human, and you make them real and like rounded people that like care about things and have wants and needs and all that, and like their own little worries and stuff. And like you make them now a part of like the bigger world, because sign language, you can like sign language is in the galaxy, so anyone can learn that, and that's something that is like cross species or cross peoples or what cross planets is what you're getting from this. And so it was really great. It was really great to see that. I mean, we got introduced to that with the Mandalorian, so seeing it now with like Boba Fett now proving himself not in the first episode to not be a harm to the Tuscans and kind of being semi accepted among them. This is just another way for him to show that like he at least cares about them and is like trying to like be with them and stuff. So it was really great. I really loved watching this again. But then Boba Fett goes to the bar. And so this bar also is, I read a little bit about this in a couple of different places on the internet, but this bar where Boba Fett shows up into is actually a cut scene from, is the exact same bar from a cut scene from the original Star Wars A New Hope. And it's where Luke Skywalker sees Briggs and like kind of gets a, like, it's like the Tashi station kind of like stop. Like he actually goes in there, goes to Tashi station, gets his power converters, and then sees Briggs like either walking into this bar, and he follows them in there, and he has a quick conversation, or right outside the bar has a quick conversation with them. They ended up cutting it from the final flick, but it was really cool to see this here. I loved the introduction to like, we see first at this bar, we see a couple, a husband and a wife, and like the husband's getting like picked on by the raiders that we saw in the speeders earlier, who like killed the dude in the house in the first episode, and like again vandalized the outside of it. And he's like, this is just not right, it's just not right. And then those raiders, not the Tuscan raiders, but these like evil bully people, monster people, are like, oh, is there a problem here? We get Boba Fett like pushing open the door, his shadow just thrown upon the wall. And oh man, it was such a cool entrance. I freaking loved it. It was so great. But then we get Boba Fett beating up those raiders, those bullies, those vandals, and he whomps them. He shoots one of them. He hits the Tuscan Raider rifle over one of the guys until it breaks. And I honestly think that, I don't think that was originally supposed to happen, because the reaction that Tamora Morrison has in that original thing, I think he just like the look of pure shock of like, oh, I wasn't expecting this to break like that. Like here, I wonder if he actually did break it over a stunt man or a stunt woman, a stunt person. During the scene, if he actually broke the prop gun over it and was like, oh, and it's a natural reaction, but he stays with it and keeps going. Because I don't know, it kind of looks like that. It could be like just how they like shot it too. But it almost looks like that wasn't supposed to happen. But it's great. He does that, and then as we saw him, Boba Fett training with the Tuscan Raider staff earlier, we see him beat the crap out of everyone else remaining in the bar of those like Raider bullies, robber vandal people. Beats the crap out of them with the with his Tuscan Raider staff, and it's great. It's so good. He takes a swig of a drink that was on the counter and just walks out. Leaves the bartender and the couple alone, and he just moves on. Goes outside. He takes the speeders back to the Tuscan Raider camp. When he arrives back at the Tuscan Raider camp, Boba Fett's like, this is how we will beat the train, like destroy the train. This is how we will stop it, is with these. The Boba then also says, like, I'll train you. I'll teach you all how to ride them. And this whole training sequence for the speeders is great. Of like, we see them, you go forward, you go back, right? Kind of like riding a bantha. It's great. It's a great little bit for like a character that is supposed to be so like mean and menacing. Like, it was for me, I loved that little comedic bit of like, it's like riding a bantha. I found it very funny. Maybe other people didn't, or maybe I'm just silly. Either way, it was great. The whole training was great because then the first Tuscan Raider to jump on the bike instead of going forwards gets shot backwards, which is again another joke and another thing that like you expect to see in Star Wars. So like I love seeing it. There's not like this was a cool episode. This is a really like cool episode, and I just loved it. The Now, in this training session, aside from like just going forward and backward on it, they learn how to ride two at a time. They learn how to jump from one speeder to the other. And Boba also takes the young Tuscan Raider and shows them how to reflect, to signal, to use a mirror reflective round piece of metal kind of, to send out a signal to call people to start like shooting guns when the train is coming by. And so Boba Fett gets everybody involved here, you know. It's great. I love it all. It's really interesting getting this like he was never really like their enemy, but like specifically like Tuscan Raiders, he was never really their enemy or anything. But it's just so interesting seeing them like adopt this outsider to their life now. Through him, to be fair, by his actions, Boba Fett's actions showing that he's actually not looking to harm them and is only looking to like, as much as he wants to survive, he's not also he's willing to like help out like the youngling as well, or the younglings of the Tuscans. So it's really cool. I've really liked all of this stuff. Then we get at the end of all the training for the speeders and all of that, we get another Boba Fett, the Tuscan warrior, Tuscan staff training session. It's all great. I loved it. Again, we get this, but it's like right during this training where everybody drops their stuff and starts running for the train attack because they get the signal that the train is coming. So then Boba and everyone on like the 5, maybe 6 speeders or 4 or 5 speeders that they have, those 10 people all ride off. And then the little kid goes running into the sea dunes to be able to take up like his post, or the little Tuscan Raider kid goes up to the dunes to take their post there, as Boba and the rest of the Raiders on the speeders go and attack the train. This is great. The music is so cool here. The music really stood out to me in this episode. Again, at the beginning with the huts, here with the train chase, like it's all been really great. It's all been a lot of fun. And then they get on the train. They get on the train with hooks. Like they just got some rope and some hooks, and they're like, whoo, grapple style, old school like Batman and stuff. And they get on there. They start climbing on there. They all have their difficulties getting on and whatnot. Eventually, they're able to. Eventually, most of the Tuscans are able to get onto the train, either on top. The Tuscan that was training with Boba with the staff shows up a little later because he got like knocked and bounced backwards on his speeder, or on their speeder, and shows up, is able to then start taking people out inside the train as Boba and his team are moving on the top. Boba eventually gets to the front where there is a droid driving the train and everything. Boba tells the droid to stop the train. Droid doesn't stop the train, jumps out actually. Boba stops/crashes the train, and oh man, it's so crazy. It's so great. But Boba actually, before all of that, even before the other like Bo staff training Tuscan warrior shows up, Boba saves the Tuscan warrior from getting kicked off the train and is like barely holding on as Boba's speeder is on fire, and both of them jump off the speeder and barely get onto the train in time. Oh man, this was so cool. The action was shot really well. And and I just couldn't believe that it was just so cool. It was just so awesome seeing this much fun stuff happening inside the Star Wars universe again, and just being so in, just being like, yes, sign me up. I want more. Give me more. And so it'll be interesting if we ever get a season 2 of Book of Boba Fett. I don't know if we will, or if, depending on what happens here in the events of like throughout the rest of the season, if we would get a season 2, or if Boba Fett and Fennec might show up in Mandalorian season 3 because it's just the natural the natural next step for them. I don't know. It'll be cool to see. But I'm really excited about this. All of this has been really great. And then once the train crashes, they start setting their terms. Boba takes all of the remaining train survivors and takes them and brings them out into the desert so that he can question them. He has the rest of his remaining raiders doing a couple of them surrounding the prisoners that they took from the train, and other ones going through what is ever on the train. Boba starts laying out the terms. He says, "Who's the leader here?" The leader stands up. He really insults the Tuscans, says that he just thought that they were uncivilized raiders that were just always looking to just destroy their train and take everything on there, and that they couldn't communicate. He didn't understand that they could be reasoned with or anything like that. Boba Fett says, like, that's great, don't care. They have an ancestral claim to the Dune Sea. So what you're going to do is you're going to start paying a toll now every time to them. Every time you cross here, you have no choice but to pay it. And if you try and kill any of them, we'll return it tenfold. And are you trading spice from the slave mines of Kessel, they say? Boba Fett brings up, and I think like the Dune Sea and the spice, that's all like nods to like the Herbert book Dune that they actually just made. Denis Villeneuve just had his movie Dune come out and stuff, and so like this has been that has to be nods to it, talking about the spice and stuff there. But like all of this was really cool. It was really awesome seeing Boba like just kind of take control, and it's really even better that he's in like still that white like onesie basically. He's still kind of like an infant in a lot of ways, and it's just so funny in this like rebirth, if you call him, surviving the Sarlacc pit, like his rebirth here of what we've seen him in like Mandalorian and now. And then so he lays down the toll for the route for these people. He says that I will give you a black melon to drink the milk from, just as the Tuscans survive on, and you will be able to make it to the next city and with your lives, and that'll be our gesture of civility that you can take back to whoever you need to. But everything here is now ours. And that's like, that makes us even for all the past stuff basically, and now going forward you will pay a toll to them. It's so good. Like Boba Fett just laying down the law. Oh man, was that so cool. It was so cool. But as they start sending off the people on the train, the Tuscans break open the water tank and just start drinking all of that. All the other remaining Tuscan Raiders are running up there with different containers of water, because I never thought about it until Boba Fett says it here, where it's like the black melon is milk and not water. So the idea that there's a tanker full of water and they're only used to drinking milk is probably going to be pretty refreshing in a lot of ways for them. So that's pretty cool. I don't know. Everything about this was really great. I really loved the way that they shot this. I liked. I mean, I will say the people who are like, this episode 2 is a lot better than episode 1, I can't disagree with that. I won't disagree with that because episode 2 is a fantastic episode. What I will say, though, is episode 1 is still a good episode. Despite how you might have actually... despite how most have felt about episode 1, I still really liked it. I thought it was a very worthy episode, and it's still been a lot of fun to watch. And the then we get the Boba Fett back with the Tuscans. They're at like a Tuscan kind of council inside one of their tents, and we get a really great conversation between Boba Fett and the leader, like Boba Fett calling them all like they're warriors and that they shouldn't have to hide, they shouldn't have to be afraid of anything. And the Tuscan Raider leader is like, well, the outsiders and outworlders have machines, we don't. Boba Fett's like, well, now you do have machines. It's a really great conversation. The leader of the Tuscan Raiders says, here, you are an excellent guide, let this guy be your guide, and gives him like a lizard. The lizard shoots up and goes into Boba Fett's nose, and he's like, oh, I think I swallowed it. I'm sorry, I think I swallowed it. And the leader of the Tuscan Raiders says, you are a great guide, let him guide you, and blows what we can only assume looked like the same thing that we saw earlier that fell over. Because when Boba Fett was questioning the people from the train and asked about the spice, a container of spice fell over and opened up. And Boba Fett, then it looks like one of the raiders like kind of just blows it into Boba Fett's face as the lizard like goes up in his head. Or goes into him as Boba Fett says that he swallows him. The Tuscan Raider leader says, let the lizard guide you. He'll guide you. And then Boba Fett goes on a crazy little trip. And it's like an hallucinogen. Boba Fett's walking in the desert, but he's changing in and out of his like armor and like that like white onesie kind of thing that he's wearing. And then we see him from like inside the desert to like the inside the desert to inside the Sarlacc pit and punching out, but still then we get a flash of a tree, and then we get a tree with like he keeps walking closer to the tree. We get a tree with red lights in it that turn out to be like red pairs of eyes and stuff. And Boba Fett punching through part of the Sarlacc and like breaking a branch, snaps it, and then returns. And in some of this like red tree like coming in and out of it, we also get shots of Camino again. So we get a little bit of everything of what they continue to show us for Boba Fett, of like, his early life and childhood, and then like his stuff that we all know him from Empire and Jedi, and where we see him there, and then where we see him now in like The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. And this is all really, really great. It's so cool because he gets this branch, he comes back and he presents this branch to the Tuscan leaders, they approve it, and then he goes and he forges his own Tuscan staff, which is really great. And that is like such a great scene. Like they have one of the Tuscan Raiders there that literally just cuts a big chunk off the top, and another like let's call it bad parts, like whatever, off the top and off the bottom. And then we start seeing Boba Fett like the same person who cuts off the top and like this portion off the bottom does little bits at a time, shows Boba how to do does do it, like how to forge his own staff. Like this felt Boba Fett forging his staff here gave me and made me feel almost like what it would be like to see a Jedi really put together a lightsaber for the first time, and building their own. Because like it took like the time, the effort. It was like beautifully shot. It had this really great music to it. Like, oh man, Book of Boba Fett. That like this episode 2 was really really great. And like this whole making of the staff. Book of Boba Fett is just so good. And this making of the forging of the staff is really great as well. And like they really get into it because they even show you, because Boba Fett is what we see later on. He has these really small, very small, intricate like diamond kind of things on the outside of like the spike of his staff, and it's just like amazing. That it like the detail and stuff that they do here, and it's just all just so great. So the reason why I keep saying this episode was shot so well is that it was shot by Dean Cundey, and I talked about Dave Klein on episode 1, but Dave Cundey was the guy who did this. He's just the cinematographer for like the Back to the Future movies, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jurassic Park, Apollo 13. That's just a little bit of what he's known for. He's also done like The Fog. It's done almost anything that you can think of. He did Halloween 1, 2, and 3. He did The Fog, the Thing. So he's done a whole bunch of stuff, and that's why this episode is shot so well, is because, and like why the first episode was also, I thought, shot really well, and why like it was just all so good. The show has been so good for these first 2 episodes. It's been great. But then they end the episode, like after Boba Fett's done putting together his staff and everything like that, he returns back with his own forged staff and gets approval of his finalized staff, and we see him then join in after the approval of his dance, or after the approval of his staff, join into the dance that the Tuscan staff trainer warrior that he was training with earlier starts doing their tribal dance around their Tuscan dance around the fire that they have outside there. Boba Fett joins in, and then the rest of the Tuscans join in, and oh man, it was so good. It was so cool seeing all of that, because we find like you see the Tuscan Raiders being able to sort of believe and sort of trust an outsider, an otherworlder, a little bit by just giving a little bit of understanding to each of them. And I'm like both sides, both parties. And so like that was really great. That was so cool to see. I also really loved, and because then the episode ends, and then one of the best things that they've carried on, that I don't know if I talked about it in episode 1, but definitely I'm going to say it here in episode 2. One of the best things that they've done and continue to do with these live action Star Wars TV shows is that they're putting concept art on the end credits, and the concept art alone is just cool enough to watch it. Like holy cow, is that stuff cool. It's just beautiful looking. It's so fun to watch and look at, just like the rest of the episode. Like it, man, I don't know. That's one. It's one thing that I really love. I really love that they did that. They kept that over going from the Mandalorian as well. Because they did that in both seasons of Mandalorian. I love that they've done it with the first two episodes here of Book of Boba Fett. I can only assume maybe at least with the Jon Favreau kind of run shows because he's not doing all of them. I wonder if that's something that he does or if that's something that Dave Filoni kind of likes to do. So I don't know. I just hope they kind of do it for all of them. Overall, this whole episode was really great. I loved everything about this episode. It was so cool. It was so good. It was so entertaining. It really felt Star Wars. So I will say that like this episode 2 was a really great episode, just a solid episode of television in general. I still really liked episode 1. I still say Book of Boba Fett is a must watch for any Star Wars fan. And if you're just kind of like dabbling your foot into Star Wars, I would say give Book of Boba Fett, give Mandalorian, give it all a try. Check it all out. There's so much to pull from and so much to look forward to that you're doing yourself a disservice by not checking it out. And I just want to say again, Book of Boba Fett, first 2 episodes are up on Disney Plus. Every new episode drops on Wednesday. Every new episode for us here at the Triple C Collective on Sundays for Book of Boba Fett will always be on Sundays for our Sci-Fi Sunday. Again, my name is Jimmy Clark. I want to thank you all for joining me today for Sci-Fi Sundays, Book of Boba Fett, Episode 2, Tribes of Tatooine.